Any more people joining from fourth semester and second semester? We still have about a couple of more people who are yet to join. Just message to everyone if they have to join. They can join
Okay, ma'am.
fast
Yes, ma'am.
because then only I will request. Then only I will request the guest to join. There's no point waiting. Pranav, anyone from fourth semester who's going to join?
Yes, ma'am. I let the students know, but people are still joining in,
Okay, okay.
and most of the student had joined, ma'am.
All right, all right. Okay. I have just requested Mr. Madhukar Swayambhu to join because I had asked him to wait till the people join. So he's just joining.
Okay, ma'am.
Good afternoon, all. I think Mr. Swayambhu has joined. We have with us today Mr. Madhukar Swayambhu from Vaidic Srijan. He is a TED speaker and he has been awarded by the Jal Shakti Mantralaya as Water Hero, recognized as global top 3 authors on water by Smart Water magazine, and, and has been working in this sector. His special contribution, I had a chance to interact with him on his contribution for developing nature-based solutions for rejuvenation of water bodies. And very recently, he has, apart from working, he calls it resurrection of native ecologies of wetlands and water bodies, is the area he has been working in Haryana, Punjab, Delhi, Uttar Pradesh, Gujarat, Chhattisgarh, and Telangana. He has also recently the news that was regarding the Varanasi water body in Varanasi, which caught my interest, and that CPCB has also been monitoring the water quality. This is an area in which we require to know the technologies that are developing. So I asked him and requested him if he could share this with us so that we can understand this technique that he has been developing and taking forward. With this, I would request Mr. Swayambhu to please give his talk. We are having these are a second semester and fourth semester
Right,
students
ma'am. I'll
of
just
Master
start.
of
There is okay.
Okay. Yes, please, you can begin. Right.
I believe there is some sort of a technical snag in the internet bandwidth that we have. So I just wanted
Okay.
to confirm whether my voice is clear to you or is there any delay?
No, no, no. We can hear. Yeah, we can hear.
Okay. So I'm not switching on my video, but I'll
Okay.
just share the slideware.
All right. Okay. Okay.
Can you see the screen, ma'am?
Yes, yes, we can see. Can. Yeah.
Okay. Uh, as the topic for today's discussion is rejuvenation of water bodies, specific to the case of Varanasi, and the process is resurrection of native ecology of the water bodies instead of the usual approach of physically cleaning the water bodies or through STPs or putting up apparatus or bioremediation or things like that. So I'll just begin with the case study of Varanasi. Uh, the program is called Revamp. It is revival and reinstating the water bodies of archaeological importance. There is NOC Foundation, which is our NGO partner in the project. This is the logo for NOC and Research, which is doing research into no objection certificate and environmental clearances and the environment impact assessment that is being done and that is being implemented. So NOC and Research is based out of Kashi, whereas NOC Foundation is based out of Delhi. So these are the two partners with us. And our organization is called Vaidic Srijan, which has developed this technology for resurrection of native ecology of wetland and water bodies. Apart from that, NMCG, the National Mission for Clean Ganga, is also our associate partner into this particular project. CMPDI is a Center for Mining and Planning Development Institute, which is based out of Ranchi, which is 100% owned by Coal India Limited. The owner of the water body is Archaeological Survey of India. The water body was Leher Tara Lake in Old Kabir Mutt. This is supposed to be the same lake or the wetland where Sant Kabir was found in 1398. So this is called Kabir Prakatya Sthali, and you have the old Kabir Mutt in the same premise. Then we have Center for Ganga River Basin Management and Studies, that is C Ganga, which is headquartered in IIT Kanpur. That is our academic partner. Central Groundwater and Groundwater Research Board is the agency from Government of India that does the survey of uh, the level of water table in all the cities and districts and across the country. Uh, so their estimate was that uh, in Varanasi, the water level is going down by 6 centimeters per year. Now, this is an alarming uh, revelation by them because Varanasi, if you look at the terrain, it has got multiple rivers coming in. Definitely, there is the most mightiest one is River Ganga itself. Then the name Varanasi is based upon again two rivers, confluence of two rivers. One is Varuna and one is Assi. So Varuna plus Assi means Varanasi. So there are three rivers. So one of the major river is Ganga itself. Then we have Varuna. Then we have Assi. Now Assi of late has been almost finished. It is. It doesn't look like a river anymore. It is more like a drain. Uh, but Varuna is still maintained in good shape, and Ganga is definitely there in Varanasi. So, in such a place, it is not expected that the water level, underground water table will go down, but here it was going. Then we have Banaras Hindu University, which is again an academic partner for doing a study on the carbon sequestration through the rejuvenation process. And Uttar Pradesh Pollution Control Board is a partner for testing the water quality, the air quality, and all, which is the effect of the revamp program. So, coming on to the water body, now this is the Google Earth image of the water body. You can see how densely it is populated. There are all houses all around, and this is what is left in the name of Leher Tara Lake. Actually, if you see, this is also a water body here. This is also a water body. This is also a water body. And back in 1398, this entire area was actually a wetland. Now, people have encroached the water body to the extent that today it is, I mean, the leftover portion is only 12.73 acres. Actually, it used to be somewhere upwards of 30 acres earlier because this side there is Varuna River, this side there is Ganga River, and this wetland used to connect both of them together. So overflow of Varuna also used to come here, overflow of Ganga also used to come here, and this entire portion was a wetland earlier. But now, due to rapid urbanization, all that has been encroached, and this is what is left over. So now the key problem with the water body is that this dense population's untreated sewage actually enters into this water body, and that is how it is getting filled up. The estimation was almost 6 centimeter of sludge coming in on a daily basis into this water body, because this is all untreated sewage. This is not getting treated from any sewage treatment plant. So it was estimated that approximately 6 centimeter gets deposited every day into this entire 13 acres lake. So this was where we started the treatment. I'll first take you through the treatment of what happened, how it happened, and then I'll come back to the other case studies and eventually to the science behind. Now, this is the condition of the lake pre-treatment. I'll just switch on the video so that you are able to have a look. Now, this embankment has been newly created by Varanasi Development Authority, but our focus area is this side. This is the water. You can see there's a lot of smudge, there's a lot of sludge, fat, oil, and grease is all there. You'll be able to see that the water is almost still, as if it has been frozen. There are no waves. Now, this still water is the best breeding ground for the mosquitoes. Now also observe the level of water. This is touching almost, this is underwater. This platform has got all water on it, right? And you see the color of the water also, it is dark black. Below water, what is there you can't see. So this was the condition after this beautification process by Varanasi Development Authority, wherein this entire stone pitching and platform and all these steps have been created. So this was recently done. This is the month of October in 2021. You see the patches of algal bloom. These white substances actually a fungal growth. These are the patches. So this was the condition when we started the treatment. Now, the project started on 19th of November 2021. The project is basically in the old Kabir Mutt. What you see, this new construction building is actually the new Kabir Mutt. Uh, just adjacent to it, there is old Kabir Mutt. There we have placed a tank for 10,000 liters of fresh water, wherein we mix our herbal medicine, which is created after a detailed study of the water body. And this medicine is amalgamated into fresh water from the same agroclimatic zone. And that water is let loose into this water body on a daily basis. And this is being done in situ. So whatever drains are coming in, they are in. This is 19th when the treatment started, the first dosing was to happen, and this is 22nd, just a difference of 3-4 days. And you see here, you can see waves in the water, whereas this side the water is absolutely still. There's a layer of fat, oil and grease. The water is stagnant. Here the waves are there and water is clear. So that was an effect of just 3 days. I'll just take you through what happens after 10 days. That was 3 days. Now we are going to 1 week plus. Now here the water was opaque. Here you can see through the water. So the transparency has gone up. So when the transparency goes up, obviously the viscosity of water also goes down. That is how the waves get created. So by this date, that entire foul smell had gone. the mosquito population had decreased substantially, and people were having a lot of relief compared to the earlier pre-treatment days. The mosquito population was in billions here. Even to the launch day when we were doing this launch program, we also had to request the Nagar Nigam to do some sort of smog spray and get us some relief from the mosquitoes. But all that was not required just in a matter of 10 days. I mean, uh, in those 10 days, the mosquitoes were still there, but it was not as problematic as it used to be. Now we are coming to the video of 2 weeks after the treatment had started. And here, what you will see is the level of water which has started receding. You see, this was where the water was, and this is where the water was after 2 weeks. This was 1st of December. The water level had gone literally down by almost 2.5 feet. I mean 1.5 feet. By now it has gone down by 3 feet. I mean as of today, as we are talking right now. The transparency, the clarity, and the flow of water, everything was back. All that which used to be submerged under the water was now above the water. Now, why this happens is because, as I told you, with everyday untreated sewage coming in, the layer of sludge gets deposited in the bottom. So it was estimated that about 6 centimeter of sludge used to get deposited on a daily basis. And with our treatment, what happens is this sludge layer starts getting dredged. So once it is the dredging is happening, the sludge is getting consumed through within the aqua ecology. That is what is called eco dredging. And once it is dredged out, uh, water reclaims the space. And when water is reclaiming the space, obviously the level from the surface will appear to go down. So this is what has happened in a matter of 2 weeks. Of course, today it is almost 3 feet down. Now this was the effect after 1 month. We did a press conference. Uttar Pradesh Pollution Control Board gave this report. This was 12th of November and it is 8th of December, wherein you see there is a difference of when you look at the pH has gone towards more alkaline, 0.58% more towards alkaline side. Why it goes alkaline is because the best suited water for the aquatic life is alkaline water. The color had also improved. The odor had also improved. I mean, the lab test says the odor is still there, but for the people, it was a great relief in terms of the odor. It was completely finished by the time this uh, sample was taken. Used to be 4.7 earlier, was 9.5 after 1 month of treatment. It is 102% higher. Now, the more dissolved oxygen is there, the better it is for the aquatic life. The biological oxygen demand, which was 7.6, was down by 32%. The chemical oxygen demand, which was 84, was again down by 32%. Total dissolved solids was down by 31%. Total suspended solids was down by 87%. Now, why these solids are important is basically uh, whenever the contamination happens into the water, it is either coming in form of suspended solids or it is coming in the form of dissolved solids. Uh, Basically, the contamination of water is due to overload of phosphates, sulfates, and nitrates, which is a part of our sewage or industrial effluent or runoff water or the storm water. Anything and everything that contaminates water is actually in the form of solids, and these solids come in water either dissolved or suspended. So the count of suspended or dissolved solids going down means there is a substantial improvement into the viscosity of water, due to which the flow will come. And that is what you had seen into the videos, that the flow was back, the transparency had increased. The salinity of water was down by 80%. And the most important factors, I mean, apart from oil and grease and other factors, the biological infection in water is in the form of coliform count. So the total coliform count used to be 70,000 pre-treatment, and the fecal coliform, which is the animal gut bacteria, was 23,000 pre-treatment. And Escherichia coli is again a disease-causing bacteria that was 1,700. Now, if you look at the post-treatment count, 87% drop into the total coliforms, 90% drop into the fecal coliform, and 35% drop into E. coli. So this means that the water was improving not just into the chemical and the lab parameters, but it was also improving biologically. The disinfection was also happening on its own. And this was the news headline from Dainik Jagran. झील के ऑक्सीजन का स्तर गंगा से अधिक है, because Ganga river is having 5 to 5.5 DO level within Varanasi, whereas after the treatment it was 9.5, which is almost double of that in the lake. Now this is as of today. This is the morning video of the same lake. You can see how wavy the water is. You can see the these kind of bloops which come up. It is basically indicating a good aquatic life. Now, this has actually become a place of rejuvenation. People go there and sit every evening. Now, these crisscross waves means there are a lot of fishes inside, because fishes swim in the opposite direction of the waves. So, this is actually an indication of a healthy water body. Now, when you sit next to any natural water body into its healthy condition, you feel rejuvenated. It is primarily because within the water, there is a lot of photosynthesis happening due to the autotrophic microbiota. And due to photosynthesis, any water body is doing two functions. One is carbon sequestration, absorbing greenhouse gases from the atmosphere, and second is releasing oxygen, exactly the way the plants do, the trees do, right? So when you have the excess of oxygen available sitting next to the water body, you feel rejuvenated, because you get that extra oxygen and your mind, your brain becomes fresh, you know. So that's the effect. And it is not a fluke. It is not just one of the case studies. There are many such stories that we have done for in situ rejuvenation. Now, in situ is very, very important to understand, because the sewage production cannot be stopped, because it is linked to human population. Every human being today is generating at least 100 liters of sewage every day wherever the water is available, right? Now all this sewage is ultimately going to land up into a natural water body, whether it is a lake or a river or a rivulet or a pond. Ultimately it is going to land up into there, right? So the best way of rejuvenation for these, I mean, if you want to have a sustainable solution, obviously the treatment has to be done in situ conditions. It should not be with any kind of interventions. So because the when the production is on, obviously it has to go somewhere, right? So all these case studies that we are going to discuss today are all in situ rejuvenation case studies, and these are multiple, all different agroclimatic zones. The first one is Ahmedabad. You can see the pre-treatment condition, the green water, the white patches of fungal growth. The green water shows eutrophication, And this is after 15 days. When you see the water is absolutely wavy, this blue color is actually the color of the sky, which is getting reflected into the water. Water does not have this blue color. I mean, once you rejuvenate a water body, it doesn't become a swimming pool. But the transparency level becomes so high that you are able to see the sky in the water. Right. Now, this is Hyderabad, Telangana. You see, this was the pre-treatment condition, and you can see the amount of smudge which is there on the top surface. It was stinky, foul smell, all mosquito breeding, everything happening. And 1st of February, this was the condition. Now, the good part is this was actually a sewage collection only. The Idudi Lake in Ahmedabad. There was a sewage dumping. You can see the sewage inlet channel here. Likewise, there were three channels in this. Now, in Kudikunta Lake in Hyderabad, this is a 8-acre water body wherein there was 2.8 to 3.5 mld of sewage coming in on a daily basis. The Lehetara Kashi case study that we have seen there, the sewage input was almost 10 mld every day. 10 million liters of sewage was coming in on a daily basis. Whereas in Kudikunta, it was uh, 2.8 to 3.5 mld of sewage. Now, again, here also it was treated 100% in situ conditions without any wet excavation. There was no dredging done, there was no weeds taken out. And nature helped us a lot in proving the technology, because you can see 1st of October we started the treatment, and about 20th or 25th of October in 2020, uh, the return monsoon took a break in Hyderabad, and it had broken all the records of last 100 years of October rains in Hyderabad. Hyderabad is, you can, for all practical purposes, you can call it a city of lakes. There are 180 lakes around Hyderabad, and all of them were flooded except for this particular one that we were treating. Because into our treatment, when the ecological dredging happens, the eco dredging phenomena, which I just explained in the Kashi case study also, the soil capillaries open, and these soil capillaries establish a link between the surface water body and the underground aquifer. So there is a vertical link which has been opened for rainwater harvesting, and that is how whatever extra load due to the monsoon is coming onto the surface, instead of the spillover, it actually starts recharging the aquifer. That is how all 180 water bodies were flooded except for this one, in which the soil capillary link with the aquifer had been established, and that is how the water was recharging the aquifer instead of spilling over and flooding. Now, the third picture that you see here is 2019 in Raipur, Chhattisgarh, where the problem was these water lilies, the weeds had occupied almost 70% of the surface. Almost 90% of the weeds had dried down, sunken into the water, and consumed in the aqua ecology. Now, closer to home, this is Delhi. This is Prasad Nagar Lake in Karol Bagh. Uh, we did the treatment, both these projects. This was done for a month. This was done for 2 months for proving our technology to the Delhi Development Authority. Both these projects were from Delhi Development Authority. This was the first education order, which was there for a month. This was the second order with improved difficulties, and this was for 2 months. Now, this water, the Jhilwala Park was almost 2.5 acres water body, and Prasad Nagar Lake was approximately about 4.5, 5 acres water body. This is in Karol Bagh and this is in Rohini industrial area. And What you can see as a difference is why the pre-treatment conditions water seems to be almost still is basically because of a lot of algal bloom. That is why the color is like dark green and this is light green. Why this is light green is because it is mixed with fog. This is fat, oil, and grease layer. This is where you find a little bit of water, and the rest everything is covered with algal bloom or fat, oil, and grease. Right? This is all algal bloom. Now, the post treatment, you can see here also the flock of birds are there, the waves are back, the water is lighter, the viscosity is down, and this is the difference of just 15 days. This is 19th of June, this is 4th of June, and this is after almost 2 months. The basic difference here is that this water used to have about 2.7 million of the count of fecal coliform, which was made almost zero in a matter of 62 days of treatment. Now, this is again in Uttar Pradesh, like Varanasi. This is Ayodhya. This is Lal Diggi Lake in Ayodhya, and this is Shapur Tigadi Lake in Muradabad. So Muradabad was again a very interesting case study wherein in a 1 acre pond we found 16 different varieties of weeds. So this was pre-treatment conditions and this was the post-treatment condition. And here it was completely covered with water hyacinth. Uh, Again, this was an interesting case study from the sewage perspective because this lake was there in civil lines. Now, civil lines, you can understand, is the area where you have all the IAS, PCAS, and judiciary, and everybody is staying there. And this was 5 acre lake was receiving 5 MLD of sewage every day. So every night they used to run a pump for pumping out excess overflow of water from the lake so that they could avoid flooding of the civil lines area. So once we started the treatment, after about 1.5 months of treatment, that pump was no more required to run because whatever water was coming in, that was being uh, used for recharge of the underground aquifer because it was getting filtered through the multiple layers of soil, and the flooding was no more a possibility at all. So without even running the pump, they could actually uh, uh, use the water body as a water body because there are multiple natural functions of a water body also. But economically, the Ayodhya Nagar Nigam was able to save a whopping sum of 40 lakh rupees per annum just by not running that pump. So that was an interesting development in Ayodhya. And then the CEO of the Ayodhya Development Authority was so impressed that he came all the way to Delhi and they gave a presentation to National Mission for Clean Ganga, and they gave this demonstration that we have adopted a new technology and this is what we have experienced, this is what we have seen, and that's how they got so impressed. They gave them further funds for rejuvenation of other water bodies in Ayodhya using our technology, and later on they came up with a tender for 8 water bodies. Same was the case with Muradabad. This was a demonstration project that we did with them way back in 2020, and then there was COVID, so they couldn't do much about it. But then after the second wave was down, they came up with a tender for about 7, 8 water bodies, and the tender is still under evaluation. So that was in Muradabad and Ayodhya. This is another project that created headlines in Dainik Jagran on 7th of July 2021. This project is there in Punjab. Now, this is a sewage drain itself, and we treated a drain in situ conditions. Um, this was done with Punjab Pollution Control Board, and again the problem remained the same. There was foul smell, there were mosquitoes, the flooding problem, and all these people of this village called Damu Majra, they had a lot of complaints about it, and the pollution control board was unable to find out any solution for that because there was a 10 mld sewage treatment plant just before the village, and the sewage treatment plant was releasing their treated water into the drain. Apart from that, there was untreated sewage which was coming in from the village side also. So ultimately, when you treat the water and it gets mixed with the untreated water, ultimately what you find is the same level of pollution which was there before treatment as well. So that is how this entire drain was polluted with a daily inlet of 10 mld. And once we treated this, they there are a couple of TV channels which did their interviews of the people also, which is all there on our YouTube channel. Now, this is the Times of India coverage of 2nd February 21, wherein they are talking about DDA falling back to Vedas to save the water bodies. This is the picture of Prasad Nagar Lake in Karol Bagh. And this is the Indian Express of January 21. And this water body is basically Mansi Ganga in Mathura, Govardhan. And this is a 10-acre water body next to a temple. You can see the temple here. This is the Govardhan temple. And this interesting thing about this treatment is we did a treatment for just about a month's time, and this temple water body in which people used to take a dip and that holy snan, and then they used to take water and achman and all that. That was the scenario about 20-30 years back. Now it was so polluted that nobody was interested in taking a dip at all. But after 1 month of treatment, the water had turned sweet, and people started doing achman also here, apart from taking bath, of course. Now, this is a TV coverage that we've got. Mandakini River Rejuvenation Project that we did in Chitrakoot in Madhya Pradesh was covered by ABP News. This is an interview of the people who were executing the project in Chitrakoot. And this was the coverage by ETV Uttar Pradesh for the Ayodhya Lal Dighi Lake, which I just explained. So those were the case studies of what we have already done. Now let's give a little bit of focus towards the understanding of the science behind how exactly it is done. So this is all based on Vedic sciences, and all the development that we have in Vedic science is having this basic sustainability idea embedded into it, because you know that India is the longest surviving civilization. It's a continuous civilization for at least last 25,000 years, which no other civilization across the globe has survived for so long, that too in continuous. So there has to be something that we would have done into our understanding of the sustainability code of nature, and this understanding only differentiates us from rest of the civilization, like whether it is Mayan civilization or whether it is Egyptian civilization or Babylonia. All of them had come and they had gone, but India is the only civilization which is continuous. And the reason behind that is our scientific way of living. We believed in Vedic sciences. Now, there is a difference in ideology of the Western science and the Vedic science. Western science says water is H2O, soil is dirt, and air is mix of gases. These are all dead substances. Man is the intelligent being. Man is the God's gift to the planet, and we are supposed to understand nature to tame it and use it as a resource. Whereas the approach that Vedic science takes is exactly different. Different in the basic ideology itself. It says there are five key elements to life on this planet, which are Kshitijal, Pavak, Gagan, Samira. Soil, water, and air are a part of these five key elements, and they, because they are the reason for life on the planet, they themselves cannot be dead. So they are all living ecologies, and by virtue of being living ecologies, they have to be treated like living, right? So nature is all supreme, and nature manifests itself in the way whatever we see around us in the planet is all manifestation of nature. Man is also one of the expressions of nature, and these living ecologies within the water, soil, and air are the reason for all the life on the planet. So when they're living, there is by default corollary that comes in. And this corollary is every living system, every living ecology has got a self healing system. And into the self healing system, there is a mechanism of repair. Like if we have a cut on our hand, that cut will get naturally healed. It's not that if we don't put up a bandage, it will not get healed. So this is the self-healing capacity, and the same goes true with soil, water, and air also. Now, this was something which was very tough for people to understand in the pre-pandemic era. But post-pandemic, everybody has seen during the pandemic that during this global lockdown, the newspapers and the news channels, the TV news, everybody reported that rivers had started becoming cleaner, air had started becoming cleaner. When everybody was inside their respective homes under lockdown, how did the river become cleaner? It was only because there was a self healing mechanism that existed. Now, because of that self healing mechanism, if man reduces the interference, the water body has this natural capability of consuming the contamination, consuming the pollution. Now, what we are doing is we are creating the pollution, and then we are also cribbing of global warming and climate change and whatnot, which is actually a resultant of the pollution that we are creating. So, in last about 100 years, this entire world has moved towards a very unsustainable lifestyle. And this is the cause of all the problems that we are going through. Now, coming from the global problem back to our subject of water, there is a native ecology in every water body. Water bodies are unique in multiple ways than one. Uh, Water bodies are the only apparatus on this planet wherein soil, water, and air, all of them come in a direct contact. So the bottom is earth, then we have water, and then we have air. Now this might look static in a lake or a pond, but it is never static. There is a consistent exchange which is going on naturally. Uh, like let's begin with the bottom layer of soil. What happens is the molecule of water is actually a bipolar molecule. The top has two negatively charged electron, the center has oxygen molecule, and the bottom has got two hydrogen anions, which are positively charged. Now that is how the molecule becomes balanced. So by default, the top becomes negatively charged and the bottom becomes positively charged. So this bipolar substance, when you give velocity to it, it will rotate like the Earth rotates. The Earth is revolving around the sun because of the sun's gravitational pull. But Earth is rotating on its axis only because this velocity which is creating this revolution. Right? Now this rotation, when it happens into a water molecule, the soil beneath the water will get grinded. And when it gets grinded, it gets converted into the nanoparticles, which we call as silt. Now, this silt, being finer particle than the soil, it'll start percolating down. And when it starts percolating down, it establishes a link between the layers of soil. This link is called soil capillary. Now, this capillary links the surface water body to the underground aquifer through which the water travels vertically. Now, this vertical movement of water is actually the key to aquifer recharge. So, by this virtue, every water body is a natural rainwater harvesting apparatus. So, whenever there is rain, the surface water body will have more pressure and the water will travel from the surface to the aquifer. Exactly opposite of this, during peak of summer when the evaporation rate is high, the water will be pulled up from the aquifer to charge the surface water body. So that is how the water body goes perennial. Now this link is also the key to avoid any kind of flooding, because during the monsoon when there'll be a pour down of water through the rains, the aquifer will be recharged instead of a spillover. This is again a link to avoid all the drought conditions. Like there is a focus that this summer there's going to be a drought-like condition into Delhi, especially central Delhi and East Delhi. It is only because the aquifer level within Delhi NCR is going down by almost 6 meters every year because the recharge is not happening. Now, when this kind of a situation happens, uh, obviously there'll be drought-like conditions. Now, to avoid drought condition, what is very, very important to be done is maintain the soil moisture. The soil moisture will also get maintained when there are soil capillaries which exist and they keep the entire soil in the surrounding moist, right? So this is one function which is happening into a water body. Second is whenever this water is traveling either from top to down or bottom to top, it is also taking a lot of minerals along. It is contributing towards the mineral cycle as well. So the overload of the minerals on the surface water body will go deep down into the aquifer, fixing the minerals into their respective layers. Like into geology, you would have heard about the underground caves. So underground cave system have got structures like stalactites, stalagmites, and pillars. These are all mineral deposits. So when the water travels from the surface to the underground caves, the water will continue to travel till the time it reaches the aquifer. But the minerals will get deposited into the caves and they form these stalactites and stalagmites and pillars. So the mineral cycle is there, then the aquifer recharge is there. That is the kind of exchange which is happening with the soil layer. Now, within the water body, there is an aquatic food chain. So there are single-celled organisms, which are the microbiota, which help in creation of the planktons, and the planktons are consumed by the bigger organism like fishes, and the fish excreta is ammonia, which is again decomposed and neutralized by the single-celled organism. So there is an aquatic food chain. One is contributing towards life of the other. The other is contributing towards the life of the previous ones, and that is how the chain goes on and on. Now, these single-celled organisms are largely autotrophic also. As I said, it is any water body is a unique combination wherein the soil, water, and air come in direct contact, and These are the only three possible habitats for the microbes on this planet. Now, when they come in direct contact, this creates the biggest possible pool of microbiota. Now, these single celled organisms have been the oldest habitants of the planet. They were the one who contributed towards converting the planet from having toxic gases to the breathable air that we have today, right? So they are the ones who can probably synthesize all the 108 elements of the periodic table. So there are microbes which are doing photosynthesis, methane synthesis, sulfur synthesis. There are microbes which consume iron. There are microbes which can consume gold. So all these microbes are available in this natural formation, in their natural form, and they're doing their natural metabolic activities, due to which the water body gets decontaminated naturally, right? So, for specific to the photosynthesis organisms, what they do is, for the sake of photosynthesis, there are two basic things which are required. One is carbon, and second is photons. So, carbon comes from the atmosphere because atmosphere has got a lot of greenhouse gases. So, these gases are absorbed by the water body, and photons come from the sunlight. So the photosynthesis happens, and into photosynthesis carbon is retained and oxygen is released. Now this oxygen becomes the part of dissolved oxygen, which is required within the water, which is trapped between the molecules of H2O, and this becomes the reason for the breathable oxygen for all the aquatic organisms. So production of dissolved oxygen is definitely very necessary for maintenance of the aquatic food chain. So now coming on to the exchange between the atmosphere and the water layer, that is obviously number one is this carbon sequestration and release of oxygen. When the oxygen production is beyond the holding capacity of water, it is emitted into the air. That is why you feel rejuvenated when you're sitting next to a water body, because you get that extra pure oxygen, and your brain consumes all that oxygen, so you feel rejuvenated. Now, the second kind of exchange that happens between the water body and atmosphere is, as I told you, the water molecule is bipolar, where the top is negatively charged and the bottom is positively charged. So, into a water body, the entire top surface becomes negatively charged. And what we know as air pollution is basically free floating solid particles in air, which are all positively charged. So they get naturally attracted to the water surface and they land onto the water surface, which means the air around the water body into a natural state is having lesser amount of particulate matter, which means the air is much more cleaner around a water body compared to any other place. So keeping the water body into their natural state means rainwater harvesting is happening naturally, flood avoidance, drought avoidance is happening naturally, air pollution mitigation is happening naturally, and the the water contamination is also being consumed. It is not getting physically removed, it is getting consumed and digested into the aqua ecology. So these many advantages are there by just keeping the water body into their natural state. Now, if you actually look at it, all the cities, all the urban area across the globe have got these five perennial problems. What to do with sewage? Water bodies are dirty. Air pollution is increasing. The underground water table is decreasing. And in the peak of summer, everywhere there is a drinking water scarcity. Now, all these five functions can actually be resolved just simply by maintaining the water bodies into their natural condition, right? So, whenever you are doing a town planning or whenever you're planning for a smart city or a Amrut city or any of those kind of urban planning, uh, just keeping the ecology into the right shape is actually going to add a lot of sustainability factor to the design of the city. So that's about the native ecology. Now let's look onto the contamination side. How does the water body get contaminated? Water body gets contaminated due to natural causes also. It's not that only human beings are creating pollution. So there is a natural process of contamination and decontamination of water. What happens is whenever there is a natural phenomena like let us suppose a volcanic eruption, into a volcanic eruption, the process is the lava will come in the end. When the lava is out, that means it is the end of the eruption. The first thing that gets erupted into the air is a lot of particulate matter in form of the heavy metals and minerals, and they are so fine solid particles of heavy metals and minerals that they are erupted in the form of fumes, and they remain in the air. Where they land is on a water surface. So that is how heavy metals and minerals get added to a water body. Whenever there is any seismic activity, movement of the tectonic plates, earthquake, the aquatic organisms sense it first. And when they sense it, they excrete too much. When they excrete, their excreta is all ammonia. Too much of ammonia will lead to eutrophication. So that is also water pollution. Whenever there is a storm, there is a twister, there is wind flowing at high speed of let's say 80, 90, 100 kilometers per hour, all the vegetation on the embankment of the water body will shed their leaves and fruits and seeds and flowers. Everything will fall into the water body, and all this material will contain phosphates. Too much of phosphate will again lead to eutrophication. So whether it is heavy metals, minerals, phosphate, sulfate, nitrate, ammonical compounds, all of them get added to water naturally also. So when it gets added to water naturally, that is called contaminated water. When the water is contaminated, the decontamination mechanism comes into picture. What happens is nature creates weeds. Weeds will come and they survive on the phosphate, sulfates, and ammonical compounds. So they'll start consuming them. When they're consuming them, they are also consuming the amount of food which is there because they are surviving on these elements only. So when these elements are consumed by the weeds, their feed gets finished eventually. And once their feed is finished, they starve to death. When they starve to death, they sink in the same water body and they are decomposed by the natural metabolic activity of the microbes. And the weeds came and weeds went away while consuming all the contamination which was there. This is the natural contamination and decontamination process. Now, when we enter into the water body, what we do is we push our domestic sewage or industrial effluent into the water body. What is the content of our domestic sewage or industrial effluent? It is the same. Overload of ammonical compounds, nitrate, nitrite, phosphate, sulfate, heavy metals and minerals. Like in paints and dye industry, it is primarily heavy metals and minerals. Right. Now, this is not a new phenomena for a water body. So whenever we contaminate, there is a natural process of decontamination that exists. But the problem is our addition is not a one-off activity that it happened about 6 months back and then it will again happen after 6 months. Our addition is consistent every year for last 100 years. Our addition is consistent every year. So the addition is not a problem, but the consistent addition creates a chain reaction. Now, this chain reaction is weeds will come, but they will never go because by the time they finish their feed, there is a fresh addition. Now, that top surface. Apart from weeds, we also add a lot of fat, oil, and grease into the water. The kitchen waste or the automobile industry waste will have all the fat, oil, and grease. Now this will float on the top surface of the water body. Now, because of the fog layer and because of the weeds, the sunlight will get reflected. When the sunlight is reflected, the dissolved oxygen production unit, which was photosynthesis, that will get compromised. And when it gets compromised, the aquatic life within the water body will get compromised. They'll get suffocated to death. When they get suffocated to death, their body is also required to be decomposed biologically, because that's a organic matter, right? So the biological oxygen demand is on rise, whereas the contamination level is consistently increasing in the form of suspended or the dissolved solids, which needs to be decontaminated, which needs to be decomposed. And for this decomposition, you need a lot of oxygen. So we are increasing the demand and we are restricting the supply, which is the production of dissolved oxygen. So that is how the contamination continues to happen in a chain reaction. And BOD COD goes up, whereas DO level is going down. And the suspended and the dissolved solids is going up, which means the viscosity of the water is increasing, and the transparency of the water is decreasing. And when this happens, eventually water will almost stand still. This still water is the best breeding ground for the mosquitoes. That is how the mosquitoes come in. Now, as you know, the BOD and the COD is going up and the DO level is going down. Eventually, the environment within the water body will go anaerobic. That means lack of oxygen. So, when the environment is anaerobic, the anaerobic beings will come into existence and the aerobic beings will go dormant. When I'm saying beings, I'm talking about the microbes. So, instead of a anaerobic aerobic digestion by the aerobic microbes, now there'll be anaerobic digestion by the anaerobic microbes. These are the microbes which will survive in absence of oxygen. Now, when they do a digestion, their natural byproduct is hydrogen sulfide, which is the cause of the foul smell around the water body. So the weeds have come, the mosquitoes have come, and the foul smell is all around the water body. This is how the water body starts to decay. Now, the suspended and the dissolved solids will eventually settle down as the bottom layer of sludge. Now, this sludge will choke the soil capillaries. The top surface of fat, oil, and grease and weeds are actually disconnecting the water from the atmosphere, and the bottom layer of sludge is disconnecting the water from the soil capillary link to the aquifer. Now the water body will get flooded into the monsoon and it will also get dried during peak of summers. So that is how the decay of the water body happens and the ecology becomes a standstill. Now what we do as our process is we have to study all these features how much of contamination is there, how much of industrial effluent is coming in, how much of domestic sewage treated or untreated is coming in, what kind of weeds are there, how many varieties of weeds are there. Um and all those things are done into our study. And after our study, we are able to determine what all herbs are required. We make a medicine which is 100% botanical extract of different herbs. Now, this medicine is amalgamated into the fresh water from the same agroclimatic zone as the water body, and this amalgamated medicine into the fresh water from the bore well or the tube well is added into the water body at any one point. It is just poured into the water body. And in presence of sunlight, this entire medicine is synthesized. And due to this synthesis, the resurrection process starts. Now, what happens on a chemical, biological, and a physical layer is what I'm going to explain next. Now, this is you have we call that portion as Carbonomics concentrate. This concentrate diluted into the fresh water is poured into the water body. When it is poured into the water body, it gets supplied with millions and millions of free electrons. Now, these electrons, when they reach a phosphate molecule, which is waiting for decomposition to happen, the electron exchange happens and the decomposition process starts. So, one single atom of phosphorus is separated from 3 or 4 atoms of oxygen, whether it is PO3 or PO4. This oxygen gets added to the dissolved oxygen, so the DO level goes up, and the phosphorus atom is separated. Now, this phosphate molecule was there as suspended or dissolved solids, right? So, this decomposition will actually reduce the suspended or the dissolved solid concentration in water, right? So, this is happening at the chemical layer. Now, at a physico-bio layer, what happens is every electron has got a charge. This charge is 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulomb. Now, this charge is good enough to give the dormant microbiota, the aerobic dormant microbiota, which is the native of this particular water body, that gets a CPR like shock and it comes back to life. Why it has gone dormant was because the environment within the water body was not favorable. The DO level was too low, and uh, because the DO level was too low and the sunlight was not available, obviously they had gone dormant and the anaerobic microbes had come, right? So when they get this CPR like shock, what they need is oxygen to breathe. So the DO level is already up, so they get enough oxygen to breathe. Now they need something to eat. So that single atom of phosphorus which was separated from a phosphate molecule is exactly the apt size of the feed that they can survive upon. So when they eat it, they are single-celled organism. Their propagation is cell division, multiplexing. One cell will eat and it will get divided into two, 2 to 4, 4 to 8. So they'll start increasing in numbers. Now this is biophysical layer. Now coming on to the pure physics, what happens is when the DO production is there due to the decomposition of phosphate molecule, initially it will get added to the dissolved oxygen levels of the water. Now, why this is all happening within the water body? It is happening in the bottom. So these oxygen molecules will start rising to the top because air is lighter than water, so it will start coming onto the top. On the top, we have this fat, oil, and grease layer. Now, this fat, oil, and grease layer will entrap these oxygen tiny bubbles which are coming up, and eventually this bubble will get punctured. So when it gets punctured, it creates an emulsion effect onto the fat, oil, and grease layer. It gets broken up into very tiny particles, and this will actually consume the entire layer of fat, oil, and grease. Now, from this puncture, the sunlight will re-enter into the water body, and the natural process of photosynthesis will restart. So this is how the resurrection process takes place, and eventually all the anaerobic digestion will stop because the aerobic life is back, and the foul smell will go. Then because the viscosity and the transparency is increasing because the suspended and dissolved solids is getting consumed through another natural process. So that is why the clarity and the transparency will increase in water, and the water will become lighter. The viscosity has gone down, so it will be wavy again, and mosquitoes cannot breed into a wavy water. So the mosquito population will also start to recede, and eventually the sludge layer will also start getting consumed due to the microbial activity. So eventually the entire sludge layer will be consumed, and the aquifer link will get reestablished with the soil capillaries, and that is how the aquifer recharge will also start to happen. So this is the entire resurrection process of the native ecology, due to which all these case studies that I had discussed in the beginning of the presentation, they are all happening, and that is how we succeed in the projects. That was the science behind. Now coming on to the administration's point of view, the typical misconception is basically between rejuvenation and reclamation. See, right now what is happening is people are getting confused with between rejuvenation and reclamation by virtue of first what they have done is because of again the unsustainable lifestyles, people have started thinking that okay, water bodies are no more required, so they converted the water bodies into the literal dump yards wherein all the solid waste and the liquid waste is coming in, getting collected, and it becomes a reason for infection, for waterborne diseases, for the vector-borne diseases. And then what they do is they basically somebody like administration or some NGO, they will do a lot of community engagement and involve people and educate people that okay, water bodies are important. So what they do is they do a lot of physical activity and remove tons and tons of garbage from the water body, and they reclaim it as a water body. When they reclaim it as a water body, what happens is they claim the body and they leave the water. Like this is a typical water body which has been restored. You can see this is restored Vimleshwar Tirth Pond in Sagga village of Nilokedi block in Karnal district of Haryana. This is what it used to be before the reclamation process, and this is what it became after the reclamation process. You see, the body is intact and there is no water. So this is where people get confused between rejuvenation and reclamation. What is important is the combination of soil, water, and air. Ecology is important. In the process of beautification, in the process of reclamation, they forget the most important element of a water body is water. If you lose all the water and you create a pit, a khadda, that is not going to help you. You know, the water body will get dried in the peak of summers and it will be flooded during peak of monsoons. That is not a natural water body at all. That is a typical problem with the administration and all the NGOs also, that they get confused between reclamation and rejuvenation. Now coming on to the common approaches. Now Jal hai to kal hai, Jal hi Jeevan hai. All these slogans have been there for last 50, 60 years. You'll be astonished to know that the first water pollution bill into the Parliament of India was produced way back in 1963. And post that, we have been taking all these four-pronged strategies. We have sewage treatment plants, we have rainwater harvesting enforced by all the urban local bodies, we have water body desilting, we have water body DVDing in the name of water body rejuvenation or water body beautification process, and we have plantation drives. Now, let's start with the process one by one. Number one is plantation drive. Plantation drive is good for creating greenery. But how will plantation drive save water? Plants are also consumers of water, they are not producers of water. We don't plant trees, we plant saplings, and saplings need a lot of water to grow into trees. We do a plantation drive, but we don't provision for water. So that becomes a problem. Now, Mantriji did a plantation drive at one particular location last year. The same location, he will do another plantation drive next year, right? So that is because the sustainability factor has not been kept into the mind. Now, here it is rainwater harvesting. We create an apparatus for rainwater harvesting by kind of refilling the aquifer through a straw, right? So we install a pipeline in deep into the aquifer, and then we take all the from all the rooftops. We install the pipelines, and through these pipelines, all the rooftop water, we take it into a pit, and that pit has got a straw, which will take the water straight to the underground aquifer, right? So this is envisioned keeping in mind that underground aquifer is actually a water tank below the ground. Like we have in most of the urban areas, we have got water tanks overhead. Similarly, the underground aquifer is a water tank below the ground, and that water tank is static. You know, we'll just fill up the water and it will remain there for as long as we want. It's not like that. Underground aquifer is also flowing water, right? So what we do is through this entire structure, when we take this water into the pit, it does not go to the aquifer, rather it gets leaked to add to the soil moisture. That is why wherever you will see that the rainwater harvesting apparatus has been installed, there the plantation drive will also go successful, because plants need a lot of water to the saplings need a lot of water to grow into trees, and this water comes from the soil moisture. So wherever both these activities are done in conjugation, both of them become successful, right? Now coming on to the water body desilting, I explained the process of ecological dredging in the slides before. Whenever you're doing a mechanical desilting, number one, you are removing the silt, which is a natural creation, which is not required to be done, because the soil gets weathered to be below the water after a lot of time, and this weathering process is what is creating silt. Now this silt is a natural creation, and this is required to create the soil capillaries. So that is why desilting is a bad idea. Rather, it should be dredging, but dredging should only carefully be done only for the sludge, not for the silt. Now, there is no machine that man has created so far which can differentiate between the silt and the sludge. Now, that again becomes a problem, because when we are doing this dredging, we are also removing the silt along with the sludge. Whereas, if you look at the native microbiota of the said wetland, they precisely know till the molecule which molecule belongs to sludge and which molecule belongs to silt. They will only consume the sludge, they will not consume the silt. And the water body will again get re-established to the its perennial nature. Now coming on to the sewage treatment plant is basically uh, um, a surgical intervention into the water body. Number one, it can only treat the fresh inlet, untreated sewage that is coming in. That cannot be used for treatment of a natural water body, because natural water body does have a lot of water of its own. What will happen to that water? No sewage treatment plant can treat the water which is existing into a water body. Like we tried doing the sewage treatment plant approach into Dal Lake, we failed. We tried doing it in Hussain Sagar, Hyderabad, there also we failed. So there has been not even a single case study of a sewage treatment plant installation next to a water body to safeguard the water body from pollution and contamination, which has succeeded in the country. Then why are we creating more? I mean, that's a question for the administration to actually think about it. But this is where the common approaches are going wrong. That is why we don't need a physical cleanup of a water body. Rather, what we need is resurrection of the native ecology. So, whenever these confused approaches are implemented, what we get is a bad water condition, wherein we have a 54% of the country under acute water stress, and we have a bad air quality, right? 22% of the underground aquifer has been depleted. This was the statement by Honorable Minister for Jal Shakti on 25th November 2019, right? So this is what we get as a resultant. So that is why we need to amend our ideas, and we should take things in a more holistic way to understand them properly. So this is what the way out is, and this is how we can solve the problems. Now, with our approach, this is what has been our recognition across the country and internationally. We've been recognized by DIPP as the clean and green tech. We've been awarded by Jal Shakti Mantralaya as Water Hero. Smart Water Magazine Spain has ranked us globally number three on the subject of water. We have been invited by Indian Institute of Public Administration for training the top administrators about environment and ecology and how it is helpful to the administrator. And we've been invited by the TED for a TED talk on our technology because TED believed that our idea is worth spreading. This was our presentation with the Jal Shakti Mantralaya. Technical for National Mission for Clean Ganga. And this is me, this is my colleague Chandrasekhar. And this is what the top administrators and executives of the country who are related to our subject, they have their opinion about us. Dr. Nivedita Haran was the head of committee of expert for Dal Lake Rejuvenation, and this is her opinion that she says the kind of work being done by Madhukarji and his team is a role model for the scientists, social activists, and public servant. And I believe children need to be exposed to these ideas early in life so that they can imbibe them as a part of the well-being and learn to adopt these good practices in their daily lives. Dr. Uma Shankar Singh is Principal Chief Conservator of Forest for Uttar Pradesh. He's an IFS officer, and his opinion about our technology is it is result oriented, ecological, and a part of apart from being indigenous. This is, by the way, the only technology which is 100% indigenous and based upon Vedic sciences. Um, and this is 100% successful in all the different scenarios, all the different agroclimatic zones of the country. Dr. Chandan Ghosh is from National Institute for Disaster Management, and he has been very closely associated with us. He has been a mentor. He's taken us to multiple forums wherein we've given our talks, and his idea is also, I mean, there is a lot of appreciation for our technology in his words also. He says that a standard norm to accomplish a sustainable development goal is something that can be done with our technology. Dr. Ashok Ghosh is the chairman of Bihar State Pollution Control Board, and he's been also very appreciative of our technology. Uh, he says the healing potential of the native ecology in soil, water, and air would be a game changer, and this is exactly what Carbonomics technology does. So this is a lot of praise for us. Dr. Bipin Taplial has been the head for CPPRI, Central Paper and Pulp Research Institute. Now, paper industry is considered to be the most water polluting industry because just 1 kg of paper needs, I mean, for creation of 1 kg of paper, there is somewhere close to 10,000 liters of water which gets wasted in washing of the pulp. So he is also seen our technology very closely, and he says Carbonomics technology is contemporary and viable as it focuses not towards physical cleaning of water but resurrection of the limnology. And Dr. Kusum Lata is from Indian Institute of Public Administration. She's associate professor there. There we had given a training for ecology and environment to the top administrators of the country, and she's also been very appreciative and very helpful towards our technology. He says Carbonomics technology is a genuine indigenous technology, a holistic approach towards environmental restoration as it ecologically transforms the water bodies. So that's been what stalwarts have to say about us, and that's the end of it. Now, if you have any queries, any questions, you may please ask it.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Madhukar, for sharing your approach and also explaining how it has been, the science behind it and how the ecology has to be resurrected. Now, if anybody has any questions, please go ahead and ask. Anybody?
Um,
Yes, Ashish. Yes.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing this knowledge. And sir, actually, I'm doing a thesis on a revival of a Hindon River. So, like this sewerage discharge and effluent discharge, that is a this is a continuous process. So, the technology you have shared with us, so it is a, continuous process, or like the start, like adding the ions and all thing, the whatever which is in the technology. So, it is a continuous process, or like it is a periodic process. That was the my confusion, sir.
See, it is a process which will continue for as long as the sewage is continuing. You see, it cannot happen that you eat pizza and burger every day and you go to the gym only once a year.
Yes,
You
sir.
know, so if you're eating junk food, you have to increase your metabolic rate to suit your body to digest whatever junk food you're eating on a regular basis. So it's like if the contamination is coming in regularly, obviously the treatment also has to be done regularly.
Okay.
Like it
Yes.
cannot happen that you install a sewage treatment plant and you run it only once a year. You know, as long as the sewage treatment plant is there, it has to run. So there is a consistent recurring operation and maintenance cost for running a sewage treatment plant, right? So similarly, the treatment of the aqua ecology, see, what we are doing is basically resurrecting the native ecology to suit the fresh pollution load. But unfortunately, the pollution load will consistently continue to increase. If it remains constant, also, the water body will be able to sustain, but it will never remain constant. It will continue to increase because it is the production of sewage is linked to human population, and human population is increasing on a regular basis. So that's why the treatment also has to be continued.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Yes, Neha. Yes, Neha, please go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for this presentation. I had a question. Can this, if the STPs, the modern STPs are designed the way they're designed, it's been proven that they're not, helpful at all. So if the mechanism of the STPs is reversed and, the sewage or the sludge that is the waste that is coming in the STPs, if the design of the STP is reversed to incorporate this mechanism and this technology, uh, maybe constructed wetlands is a way out of this, but would this then help in reducing the load, the pollutant load?
As far as STP is concerned, STP is altogether different work philosophy because what it is doing is basically physical membrane filtration and chemical treatment and microbial treatment. Again, coming on to the constructed wetlands, the whole architecture of a constructed wetland is passing it through multiple levels of gravels and charcoal and sand and things like that, right? Uh, both these approaches are basically doing a lot of physical and chemical or biological intervention with the water. Whereas, as I said, Water in itself is a living ecology and it is capable of taking care of all the contamination that is coming in. Only point is that probably we have exceeded the natural digestion capacity of the water in terms of our production of sewage. So all we have to do is, scientifically speaking, the water pollution is also called nutrient overload. Nutrient overload is something like, let's say if we have gone to a party and we have done overeating. So for a overeating, do we undergo a surgical process? Obviously, no. We will eat some sort of enzymes like maybe hajmola or digene or pudin hara, right? Because it is just enhancing the natural capacity of our digestive system to consume the overload that we have given to our body consciously, right? So similarly, when we are talking about water body rejuvenation, the overload has to be consumed, and we just have to give a hajmola for the aqua ecology to increase its digestion capacity. That is precisely what we are doing into our technology. So frankly speaking, every water body in itself is a living STP. It is capable of consumption of the sewage. Only thing is we have to support it instead of a surgical intervention into the aqua ecology.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question? Any other?
Sir,
Yes, Pranav. Yeah.
sir, when we talk about native ecology terms, that we have seen for the recurring birds, means if we talk about the static water, then what is the possibility of native ecology in that?
What exactly do you mean by static water?
So static water means like in earlier cases we have observed that each of the water bodies are interconnected. But due to urbanization, we have observed that some part of the water body are constructed with the built up and some parks over there. Then the water becomes only the static source, and the water becomes only the static one over a period of time in that particular place. So what are the native ecology in that particularly static water?
See, as I said, it might look like the water is static, but water is never static. As long as the water body is there, there is an ecology that exists. Only point is, ecology is either dormant or in the process of dying, or it is in a healthy condition, right? So even if you look at the case study that I shared about Moradabad, the Shapur Tigri lake, that used to be about 15, 16-acre lake at some point in time, but now it was reduced to only 1 acre, right? That is all because of the encroachment. The Varanasi case study that I spoke about, that used to be about 30 acres of a wetland at one point in time, and when Kabir was found in 1398, it was actually a literal wetland. Now it has been reduced to just about 12, 13 acres of a water body, right? So this all this encroachment is happening, but as long as water is there, the ecology exists. There is a possibility of resurrection, and that is what we have done in both these case studies. These are all grossly encroached case studies, whether it is Lehertara or whether it is Shapur Tigri. But then you have seen the rejuvenation process. Even today, the project for Lehertara is on. Whenever you happen to visit Varanasi, you can actually go and see the water body with your own eyes. As long as water is there, the resurrection of the native ecology can be done.
Yes sir, yes sir.
Unless, of course, if something like what has been done in plenty of water bodies in Delhi, where they have been dried and the park has been built up over them. So then nothing can be done. I mean, then there is no hope. Then there is no water body at all.
Any other questions?
Hello, sir. Myself Akash Sharma, ma'am. Uh,
Yeah. Okay.
hello.
Please go ahead,
Good
Akash.
afternoon, sir. Good afternoon. Yeah. My question is that you are talking about some in cow during cow economics. You are talking about some balls. you are putting into the water body.
No,
So
no
you
balls are
said
being put into the water body. Our process is what I explained. We have to study the water body. We make a 100% botanical extract concentrate liquid, which is amalgamated into the fresh water from the same agroclimatic zone, and then it is poured into the water body. There are no balls being put into the water
okay.
body anywhere.
Okay. It's a pure form of organic something, or it's with a chemical formula some
It's 100% botanical herbal extract.
herbal
जड़ी
extract.
बूटियों का घोल है.
जड़ी बूटे घोल है. ओके ओके.
Yeah,
ये एक्सट्रैक्ट फ्रॉम वैदिक पीरियड जो डॉक्यूमेंट्स होते थे उधर से
right,
एक्सट्रैक्ट करने के बाद में ये चो निकला. ओके.
right. Now, if you look at history of India, pre-independence era, there was no water stress. There was no
Agreed.
water pollution. Why?
Agreed.
Because they were kingships and they were princely states, and every state used to have a Rajvaid. There was a mantri, and the mantri and the Rajvaid together used to take this onus of maintaining the water bodies. Post independence, all this problem started happening when in somewhere in 1974-75, after the emergency, when government of India took charge of all the water bodies as the property of the state, not as the part of the community. So government of India has taken the complete charge in terms of ownership of the water bodies, but the operation and maintenance of the water bodies was something which was lost in the science itself was lost after the princely states, because government of India was falling in line with more of what is happening in the Western world instead of relying on our own Vedic sciences. So that is why when you needed a green revolution, Mr. Swaminathan had to travel all the way to America, which is just about a 300 years old civilization.
Any other questions? I almost want to visit some of these water bodies and because us from actually saying anyway, in Delhi we have the Prasad Nagar lake, which maybe I hope to see sometime, and then we can see this. Actually, nowadays what is also being taken forward is this nature-based solutions,
Right.
and it is very important that we have a good understanding and how it is working, how it is, because in an educational institution, it is our responsibility to expose the various systems that are in the horizon or are in the main thing, and leave it to the coming generation to take it forward. And also, I mean, it is not like, trying to, I think it is opening the mind to the options that are available. So I'm very thankful to you that at such a short notice you agreed to share this with our students, and we hope to also, as more and more lakes are getting restored or rejuvenated, we would definitely like to know more about. And of course, your Jadi Booty is something I'm still inquisitive to know what goes into. I mean, one question from my side: the mix, the herbal mix, is it also from the same agroclimatic region? I mean, you're growing it in the water of that agroclimatic region. So I was just inquisitive whether the biotic, that component is also local. I mean, this is a question I'm a little.
No, ma'am, this is 100% Indian herbal products that we are using. I mean, all pure jadi booty, but it is not necessarily grown into the same agroclimatic zone. It can be grown.
Okay.
Most of our jadi booty are primarily something we are buying from Uttaranchal, because there we have most of the medicinal herbs available comfortably and
Okay.
freely. So most of our stocking is done from there. But as far as the agroclimatic zone is concerned, why we cure it into the fresh water from the same agroclimatic zone is because the medicine should suit the water. When we
Okay.
are adding
Okay.
it into a water body, the medicine should be acceptable to the water body. So that acceptance comes from the water of the same
I see.
agroclimatic zone. Yeah, that is why it is required.
Okay. Okay. It is very, very. I mean, we would definitely. I mean, it makes us think nowadays. Is that science? I mean, the science that was there before, which we do not have apart from people who are working in this sector, is a whole area of knowledge which is still. Uh, I mean, a lot of us are not aware of it also, and there is so much to know. So thank you once again for
Thank
taking
you,
out the
ma'am.
time. And with this, on behalf of our department,
Thank
I
you, ma'am.
thank you
Thanks a
all.
lot. It was my pleasure to be
Uh,
there, and some very wonderful questions have been asked by all your students, and I enjoyed the session very much. So, whenever you would like to would like us to be there for any presentation, we will always be looking forward to it. And whenever we start any fresh project in Delhi NCR, we will keep you posted so that if you want to
Definitely.
come over, you have a look, and you want to make it a study tour for your students also, we can actually show you around all the water body, and we can explain it to you how things are happening. So that, I mean, frankly speaking, what we feel is the more we are connected to nature, the better it is for us also and for nature also. That is why people should be interested more and more towards the air, the water, and the soil around us. And by default, it is so rejuvenating because all these projects in Delhi specifically, when we visited in the pre-treatment condition, it was just a scavenger land. You could not see anything more than a crow or eagle around that water body. And once that rejuvenation happened, you could actually see flock of birds, bees, butterflies, all the dogs actually jumping into the water. They, I mean, it is so rejuvenating experience around a water body when it is rejuvenated, that you feel fresh going to a water body. So whenever
Yes.
you would like to have that kind of a tour to a water body, or whenever we starting any fresh project, we'll keep you posted.
Thank you very much. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, ma'am.
Okay. Good evening. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. I'll just close the call now. Thank you.